Hello once again, here we are with Sebastian Sierp, our newest episode with Micah Sierp. You might wonder why his name is the same as Aaron Sierp, the co-host that joins the show with me. Well, that's because that's Aaron's older brother. And he is the owner and proprietor of Bourbon, Ware, makers of fine leather goods, among other things, for all things bourbon. Michael, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Yeah, we waited a long time for this, man.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. So, I know that you both share a lot of history with the leather craft and learning that. Tell us just a little bit about how that came about, because you weren't always doing just bourbon design stuff, right?
No.
Yeah.
So I started working for Dad, I guess, when I was 9. And so that was a company called Kentucky Leather Works, which was more people-oriented stuff. Belts, key tags, wallets, checkbook covers, purses, things like that. And then when I was at the University of Kentucky, I worked for a company called Leather Champions that did thoroughbred halters and race tack and things like that.
Now, just so people know, your old dad, Dieter, he had really trained as a leathersmith, hadn't he? I mean, like, had developed a very high level of craftsmanship that is maybe not seen as much today, right?
Yes, going all the way back to 1966, 1967, Knott's Berry Farm in California.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome.
A lot of history.
Yeah. So, if someone were to ask you, and just staying with the leather topic for a minute, if someone were to ask you, well, what makes this quality versus something I find at a local store, and I go, is this leather? I'm not sure. It smells like it.
Right.
What is it like when you look at this and you go, this is what I do for a living? I'm going to tell you about this. What is that exactly?
So there are two main things. So we've got the quality of the materials and the construction technique. All the leather we use, and in fact most of the leather that Dad used over the years, came from one of 2 surviving traditional vegetable tanneries in the U.S. At one time there were thousands of them. There are 2 left. There's one in Curwensville, Pennsylvania, which is called Wickett and Craig. Been around for about 150 years. That's who we use.
Wow.
And then there's Herman Oak in St. Louis. That's the other one. So 100% natural, eco-friendly, veg tan leather. Whether it's bridle leather like this is, or harness leather like that is. So that's the quality there, right? It feels different, it wears differently, it lasts longer. It's also non-toxic. Most of the leather that you see now is a chrome tan leather, and they use chromium salts in the tanning process. And when that breaks down over a long period of time, it can turn to, I think it's chromium 10, which is actually toxic. But and then a lot of leather that looks like this but is not vegetable tan is what's called a retan. And so they'll chrome tan it and then do some other various processing to make it kind of look like a vegetable tan piece of leather.
So when you say veg tan, what is that exactly?
So vegetable tanning using basically tannins from tree bark and other natural dyes and tannins and things found in nature is the oldest form of tanning that we're aware of.
Okay.
And they're still doing it the same way at Wickett and Craig. It's all tan in these giant pits, basically, that are lined in these giant timbers, kind of look like railroad ties.
Wow. Yeah, because tanning is like 1,000-year-old or more thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's been around
Way
forever and ever.
Way old.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So when you, everything that you do with Bourbon Ware is handcrafted, so it's not like there's some
so that's
supply line back there of, we got, big machines churning these out. So everything you've gone through and touched.
So that's the construction part of it. So, a few things. On all our rocks glasses, pretty much, we have this nice rolled edge, and so that leather's folded back in. You'll notice that the stitching is very fine, right? We don't like big, chunky, loose stitching, so it's all very tight and fine. Each sleeve for the rocks glass is individually cut by hand to fit that glass.
Okay.
Right.
So it's not like you have 40 of them sitting out in pre-cut ways. It's like you look at the glass and say,
yeah, so we pre-cut something that's oversized, basically. and then it's trimmed to fit that glass, because variation, since you're dealing with a natural product like a vegetable tan piece of leather, if you were to do it that way, you'd be trying to basically shove a square peg in a round hole, and it doesn't work all the time, and some sleeves would be too tight and some would be too loose, and so everything has to be individually hand fit.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, why the name Bourbon Ware? I mean, is it because bourbon, like that's what people do here mainly in Kentucky, or?
No, I came up with that name in 2011. I actually created the first product, which was the Lexington Rocks glass, in 2007. Designed this in 2007. The name was created in 2011. I knew I wanted the word bourbon in there because that was going to be the main thrust of the business, because the bourbon industry had really started to ramp up, and has continued to do so. A lot of people thought it was going to level out, and it hasn't. So, here we are 8 years later, and it's still climbing. So, and then, just wear as in durable goods, wares,
Yeah, because for our viewers who may not know, being here in the Bluegrass, we are in the bourbon capital of the world.
Yes.
Particularly Bardstown has always been called bourbon capital of the world, right? But the surrounding area, all these things have popped up. They've been here for hundreds of years, some of them, but now it's gotten really popular. So people are watching halfway around the world, they're going, bourbon, what's going on? I know they've got makers down at the bar down there, but I had no idea. So we're kind of right in the middle of that industry.
Oh, big time,
And,
yeah. You get Bardstown, Frankfort, Woodford County. Now Paris, Bourbon County is starting to see a resurgence.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There are people distilling there again.
Now you have a number of clients and contracts set up with distilleries, right? Tell me some about those and who you...
So in 2007, Woodford Reserve was the first customer, first person I approached.
Okay.
And
Very well-known distillery.
Oh yeah, and they were
well-known.
they were really the first ones to realize that a really well put together tour and gift shop, something that was very almost boutique-ish at the time, was going to be the future. They were the first ones to ever do that. All the other distilleries up into that point had good tours and had like mediocre gift shops. And Woodford kind of set the standard. They opened that gift shop in '96, and actually Kentucky Leather was one of the first vendors. Obviously, not using this product because it didn't exist.
So you had a relationship with them long before.
Yeah, because Dad did key tags and business card holders and folios and things like that for Woodford in '96 when they opened the gift shop.
I see. So none of the distilleries had that idea to do a boutique or gift shop.
Didn't
situation.
exist prior to Woodford, not in Kentucky.
Really?
No, and a lady named Lois Matus really was the spearhead behind that. And she was, at the time, the vice president of the Brown-Forman Corporation, which owns Woodford Reserve, in conjunction with Jack Daniels and Old Forester and other brands.
Okay. So when you got on with Woodford Reserve, there was, were you able to service those other distilleries as well?
So in 2007, we were doing a business called Equestrian Classics, and that was focused on really high-end bridal work for people who do hunter jumper and show jumping and stuff like that. More or less, I created this product on the side, not specifically for that business, just because I thought it was going to be cool. And then I thought, well, maybe this has some traction. And in 2007, I went and saw the buyer at Woodford and sat down with her and convinced her to buy all of 12.
So
all of 12 of
start
these.
somewhere, man.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it just went from there, And then when I started doing this full time in 2013, we really started picking up customers.
Okay. So even though the focus is mainly on bourbon, and in case you can't see that at home, you see all the different varieties here. But do you do this same type of thing for other liquors or liqueur?
Well,
whiskeys
what we've started to branch out into a little bit is some beer related stuff. So
nice.
that's our glassware. Kind of circling back around to the quality part of it. All the glassware we use is Libby, and so that's a U.S. made product, just like the leather's a U.S. made product. And just last year, we were able to source thread that was made here in the U.S. So this is a completely U.S. made product, start to
nice.
finish.
Okay.
But yeah, Libby Glassware, so this is their beer can glass, which is a cool shape. There are a lot of leather companies that do a traditional pint glass with a leather sleeve on it, and we wanted to do something different, so we went with this beer can shape, and that's our distressed American flag in black and gray, kind of a tactical kind of feel to
Well, I
it.
remember that from the old Slayer albums where the flag was upside down.
Yeah, right,
yeah.
Black
They
flag,
label.
you know.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
But yeah, so we do some beer stuff, but it's mainly bourbon, do some beer things. What we tell people is, this is a really universal size. This is a 13.5-ounce glass. Technically, this is a double old-fashioned glass. But when I designed this in 2007, no one knew what the hell a double old-fashioned glass was.
Yeah,
Right? No one cared. Yeah, right? You know, so I had to call it something, and so we called it a rocks glass, because everyone knows what a rocks glass is. And you can drink whatever you want to out of it. You know, we've had customers over the years who have bought them to drink wine out of, or mixed drinks, or whatever. You know, you don't have to pigeonhole it. So.
I'm drinking a vodka Sprite right now.
Yeah, you know, the voice behind the curtain, you know, is enjoying a vodka Sprite made with vodka from Castle and Key, which is another one of our customers.
Oh, really?
New distillery right down the street from Woodford.
Yeah, they've
The
really
old
been
Taylor
picking
distillery.
up more, haven't they? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do you service, like, do you have this for local bars as well? Is it just distilleries, or is it restaurants and so on and so forth?
It's primarily just gift shops and corporate gifts. Now, this would obviously be really cool if you walked into a bar and they served you this. The problem is a scale issue. You know, when you're serving, 1,000 people on a Saturday and you're trying to make them cocktails and stuff, and then throw this in the dishwasher, which you don't want to do. You know, these need to be hand washed. It's a little bit prohibitive for institutions like that.
Sure.
So it's primarily the distilleries, places like, or institutions like the Breeders' Cup. We're the official rocks glass of the Breeders' Cup.
Nice.
Things like that. Rolex 3-day event, which is now the Land Rover 3-day event.
But in a way, because you can't do this large scope thing with restaurants, it really makes it ideal for the person who is kind of a serious connoisseur. I mean, a person who would like have a 100-year-old sipping bourbon at home.
Sure.
Right. And so, I mean, it really makes it a select product that you couldn't get anywhere else, right?
People love it, and I have people tell me, it's funny, people kind of fall into two categories. There are people who buy the glass or receive it as a gift, which is pretty common, and put it on the shelf with their bourbon and don't use it. And it's kind of like a fixture on the shelf. And then you've got people that use them every day.
Oh, that is awesome.
You know.
I mean, you want to use them every day.
And you do want to use them every day, right? And we tell people that. It's
You
very
could get used to
flattering.
this. You
Well,
could get used to this.
Yeah.
I mean,
This
the
feels
leather,
good. This doesn't feel like aluminum. You know what I mean?
Right.
the leather wears in a certain way, and it's extremely aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's very aesthetically.
Well, I've noticed
pleasing.
just in 20 minutes that my hand is molded to this. It feels right. Like I just have to have this glass again. That's the way it feels, folks. Hey, listen, we're going to be right back. We're going to break for a quick commercial from our lovely sponsors. We'll be back with Micah Sierp of Bourbon Ware.
At Kyojuteru Kempo, we believe that everyone has the right to defend themselves and their loved ones. Violence can visit us despite age, race, or gender. Call us at Kyojuteru Kempo or check us out at kyojuteru.org. kyojuteru.org.
Hello, I'm Chip Sebastian. I am the co-host of Sebastian and Sierp. If you've been liking the shows, please click like down below. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, jump on over to YouTube, click subscribe, and you will get the most recent episodes of our show where we're interviewing all kinds of great and interesting people. So we're looking forward to a lot more shows. Stay tuned. It's rolling. Just begun. You heard Aaron, you guys. We are back from our break from our sponsor and everything. We're here once again with Micah Sierp at Bourbon Ware. Micah has been telling us about the extreme craftsmanship that goes into what he does and about the many people that he services. I was going to ask you, Micah, you were talking a lot about the cup holders, but I know you make other products as well. Tell us about these flasks over here. Those are really nice looking.
Yeah, so this is a 6-ounce pocket flask, and this one's a Buffalo Trace, which is one of our customers that carry the flask. And then that's in a buck-colored harness leather, and then there's one in dark brown bridal leather with some jockey silks on it.
Nice.
Caramel-colored foil.
Very nice. Now, do you find a lot of people are still getting flasks, like using them? I mean, like, does that come back?
Well,
Do you vote a
yeah,
lot?
you know, they're eminently popular. They really are, especially as gifts. And we do a flask gift set that comes with a couple little stainless shot glasses and a flask, not a flask, but a funnel to fill the flask up with.
Oh.
And those are super popular because it's a nice gift box kind of thing. And yeah, the flasks are very popular. We're getting ready to, the request we have is for a larger flask.
Really?
You know, because it's only 6 ounces, right?
Some of the serious
yeah, right. They're like 2 drinks.
gallon flask.
Yeah. So what we're getting ready, I just got some samples in today. We're getting ready to do a 12-ounce flask that we're probably going to market as a travel flask that you put in your overnight bag.
At least have the size of a Coke and bourbon.
Yeah, right. You know, well, it's enough to share. There's not really enough in one of these to share with anyone else.
Now, if you get a 12 ounce, you got to share.
You gotta
Remember that.
share, you know.
I know some of you out there won't. I've got a feeling about it. Now, these coasters are absolutely beautiful.
The
Have a look at that,
Mercer,
folks.
yeah, the Mercer horseshoe coaster. Very, very popular.
Mercer?
Yeah, so we grew up in Mercer County,
Oh, from
which
Mercer
is
County.
where that name came from. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
kind of an homage to the roots, you know.
So this is the same type of leather that would be on the cup holders, but a little thicker.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So that's significantly heavier. So it's the exact same leather that is on the glass. It's just a lot heavier, and they're backed in black suede on the back. And we do those in a number of different designs. We do them with initials, custom laser engraving, which is what that middle one is.
Okay.
A lot of different options.
Laser engraving. Wow.
Yeah,
So
very
it's-
popular. Very, very functional.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, you were saying a minute ago during break that when people ask you about leather care or quality, there were like 3
Right.
things. What was that?
Well, there are 3 things that people ask about the products in general, right?
How do you clean it? Where is it made? And how do you care for it? Okay. So we have a little disc, little construction paper kind of disc that goes in the bottom that says Bourbon Ware, handcrafted in Kentucky. Please hand wash. Right. So that answers
Okay.
2 of those 3 questions. Okay. So you want to hand wash these and let them air dry. Okay. Water will not hurt the leather. Okay. Traditional vegetable tan leather is not hurt by water. Okay, the sleeve was actually wet when it went on the glass for the first time. So you want to hand wash them, let them air dry. They're obviously all handcrafted here in Lexington, Kentucky. And care-wise, we have a product that you have a sample of right
Yeah,
there.
it's Black Rock.
Black Rock.
Black Rock.
That's a 3rd generation company out of Nashville. The gentleman who owns it now, his grandfather created the recipe. And, you know, I've
So this
tried
is
1,000
like-
leather dressings over the past 20 years.
Really?
That one is perfect for our product line.
So
We sell it.
So it softens but prolongs the life and the quality of the leather. Is that?
Yes. Okay, so over time, what's going to happen is the leather gets wet and dry and wet and dry and wet and dry. And I'm talking about hundreds and thousands of uses. It's going to start to dry a little bit. You know, that's just the nature of it. Some of the essential oils and natural oils and things that are tanned into it are going to dry out of it. And so what you want to do every so often, and when I say every so often, if you use this glass every day for a year, you might want to stop and condition it, right? It's not that often. Okay?
Okay.
So that jar, you know, if you're using one of these to drink out of every day, is going to last you, you know, like 2 decades. I mean, it's going to be a long time, you know. And so it doesn't take much, but every so often, you want to give it a little love, and it will last a lifetime if you take care of it.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's really awesome. So you have the flask. Now you have some other. You were saying that Dickel, George
Yeah,
Dickel,
George
is a
Dickel.
new client for you, and you have some coasters there.
Yes. So George Dickel is a new customer. They're a brand that falls under the umbrella of Diageo, which owns Bullet. So that's how we got hooked up with them. We do coasters for them in that configuration with that white foil. We do rocks glasses for them in the buck color with no foil, similar to that. And there's a Bullet right there.
Wow, okay.
And then they're also going to start doing some American flag stuff and whatnot.
Like
So
similar
it's
to
kind
the
of
one that you
interesting.
had.
That we had out earlier.
Somebody
Yeah,
had
this guy
earlier.
right here.
Yeah.
So they want
beer glass.
Yeah, well, they're not going to do a beer glass. We're going to do that on a flask for them, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So doing some Tennessee whiskeys in conjunction with bourbons from various places.
That's awesome. Now, I noticed too that you have, I don't know if you can see it in the shot here, but the larger Woodford Reserve,
The decanter.
the decanter
Why
up
don't you
there.
pull that down?
Yeah.
Because that's pretty impressive.
It pairs
So,
nicely with the set of glasses.
Yeah, a larger version of that. Yeah,
so
that's really nice.
decanter, and there's the
Oh, yeah.
glass.
See,
So-
that would look great on your bar, sitting on your
And
home
that's the
bar.
whole idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that looks really nice.
We, the decanters are Polish crystal. We do several different styles depending on what the distillery wants.
Gotcha.
That's our vintage oval style.
Vintage oval. So you do that for other than Woodford then?
Yes,
That's-
so Bullet, for instance.
it's sitting right here.
Yeah, there you go,
Yeah,
it's sitting next to
right
it.
there.
And so that one's laser engraved with just the word bourbon, right? So that's popular to have various decanters with various types of liquor, engraved on there. Bullet, for instance, does a more cylindrical decanter that we offer. It's right there with no sleeve on it.
Wow.
Move it back.
Yeah, so that's something that we do for them.
That's awesome. So, yeah, Mike, I was gonna ask too, if people see the show and they want to get a hold of you to get some product,
Sure.
please just, and we're gonna do this again at the end.
Yeah.
But email, website, telephone number.
Right, so Bourbon Ware, WARE.com. Micah, MICAH, at bourbonware.com. We are at bourbonware on Instagram, which is a great way to see the products.
Yeah, they can,
Yeah.
all the high-res pictures. you got on
Yes,
there and
yes, yes,
everything.
yes. Instagram is a great tool, and we use that a lot.
Okay.
Or 859-420-8010.
Okay. You can call Micah, you can get your product, you guys. This is exclusive stuff. You really can't get this. I don't know where else you would get this type of stuff. It's unique. So call him, set it up. You need it. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor.
Hello, I'm Chip Sebastian. I am the co-host of Sebastian and Sierp. If you've been liking the shows, please click like down below. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, jump on over to YouTube, click subscribe, and you will get the most recent episodes of our show where we're interviewing all kinds of great and interesting people. So we're looking forward to a lot more shows. Stay tuned. It's rolling. Just begun.
Cool.
And we're back with Micah Sierp here at Bourbon Ware. He's been telling us about his product and all the magnificent stuff that he does here at his shop in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to go, the show is really about finding unique things like this and about finding people that are expert in something. And,
Sure.
And we always say by expert, just for clarification to our online viewers, by expert, we mean more than 5 people think you're an expert in it. Not I just put a video on YouTube and I'm a kid in Hackensack, keyboard warrior and all that.
Sure.
So, just expanding this a little bit, what do you think regarding the leather work? Not so much the bourbon, because I know. There's just a lot to be said about bourbon.
Well,
Especially.
there's plenty of commentary on bourbon.
There's plenty of commentary on bourbon, and it's been.
And that's not my expertise.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's not your expertise, and it's also just such a burgeoning industry at the moment. But regarding leather craft, and this in particular, how do you feel this fits in to culturally as a whole? In other words, you have people out there who's like, well, I don't know, man, I got a can of Coke here, it's after work, and you know what I mean? It's like what?
Why should I spend $30 on this?
Well, yeah, why should you? And not so much the selling of it. It's not that. It's more of, because I could see this. I mean, there are a lot of things out there you would buy, and you'd be like, well, I spent a lot of money on this thing, and you buy it, it's a piece of crap, But this is actually something I could see. Boy, this is nice. This is a good experience for the evening after work. Maybe I'm watching a movie or whatever.
Smoking a nice cigar.
Yeah, smoking a nice cigar. Right. So there's a certain mystique around
Well,
this.
it goes back to what Aaron said a minute ago about aesthetics.
Right. And so there are a couple of things. We have aesthetics and we have tradition, okay? And so, the cigar comment, I think that, filters in nicely. You've got bourbon and cigars and leather, right? Tobacco, leather, bourbon. It all kind of goes together.
Backbone things of...
Right. Very, things that are aesthetically pleasing. Things that...
They all smell good.
They all smell good, they look good, they taste good.
And it's not just not just an American concept. I mean, if you went to England, for instance, you would see this exact type of thing.
And the English have a great tradition, of leatherwork. And the Germans and the Italians and, a lot of European countries have great traditions of leatherwork, especially the Germans and the Italians of really fine leatherwork, right? And so circling back to the beginning of the interview, when we were talking about differences in construction techniques, where a lot of this comes from, these folds and the fine stitching, and then like the glass I'm drinking out of, is the edge is bound in waxed cotton using a technique called a French bind. Okay.
Oh, wow.
All these are old school European leather crafting techniques. That's where all this stuff comes from.
We talked about a lot of the product. I think one we didn't get to was the shot glass, though. Now, do you have a lot of those ordered by the distilleries as well?
Yes. So Woodford picked up the shot glass not long after they picked up the rocks glass. Buffalo Trace sells them. Bullet sells them. It's a very popular companion product.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We were there before the last break, starting to talk about how leatherwork and finer leather goods like this have sort of worked their way into the cultural phenomenon. In other words, like who is getting this? It's people who are like, I really want this full experience, a unique experience that I'm not going to get from just walking into the watering hole down the street, right? So, yeah, please, I think you were talking about that. Please continue.
And that has, I think, been one of the major thrusts behind this bourbon craze, or whatever you want to call it, that we've seen in the past decade or so, is that it's all experience driven. Whether it's the tour you take, or the tasting, or the tour company you pick to take you to multiple distilleries, or whatever it is, or what you buy in the gift shop. It's all about the experience and the aesthetics of the whole thing. So you see a lot of distilleries and brands putting a lot of resources into creating that experience, which 20 years ago just didn't exist. There were no resources really put into customer experience on site. Everything was marketing oriented to bars or having their product on the shelf or whatnot, not so much you coming to see them at the distillery proper in person.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that's where we fit in. That's where a lot of things fit in. Cigars and leather goods and just better quality branded items and accoutrements that you see in these gift shops and online associated with these various distillers.
Yeah, it seems like a really odd time when we can have a lot of crap delivered to us, say Amazon, like we ordered and it's on our doorstep the next day, but a lot of it is just very easy to get, not special stuff, right?
Right.
And it seems like, tell me if you think I'm wrong about it, but it seems like it's given rise to this return to really primo handmade stuff that is like, you just can't get anywhere else. Do you feel that way?
Yes. So you're seeing a rise, and this is obviously outside the bourbon industry too, but the whole shop local thing. You know, shop local, eat local, da 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 da.
Yeah, farm to table.
Right, that's all bled into everything else. And
Okay.
people want to have that experience, and it's important to them, and they value things that are local, you know, things that are sourced, materials that are sourced in the U.S. or sourced locally if you can. You know, for us anyway, we can't source any of this in Kentucky because there's no one in Kentucky making these raw materials. So the next best thing would be to source them in the U.S., which we've done. So that is a big part of the experience and the drive behind all of it. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's important to people, and that's why the stuff sells. If people didn't care, it wouldn't sell, and we wouldn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not just us. That's
Must
a lot
be
of
hard
other
for
people, you know. And if everyone was happy with a $10 bottle of bourbon that may not be so great, you know, and that's not to throw off on them, you know, they have their place, but all these other brands that you see sitting here would not exist.
Well, sure. Yeah. Just like a Lamborghini wouldn't exist.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, if you had a market for it, you know. And there's, you know, the Lamborghini of bourbons exists, you know.
So you're, say you've got a couple, they're throwing a nice party, they want it to be exceptional, and, you know, all the people get there and they've got Burger King glasses, and they got,
Right.
and everybody's like, what the hell is
Mickey
this?
Mouse
What do
stuff,
you know,
yeah.
right? But then they have something like this, and people are like, wow, they really went, they went the country mile for it.
Well,
That's great.
and we get that feedback, and that's great. You know, people tell us, especially our return customers, you know, tell us that they've stocked their bar with our glasses, whether it's from a distiller or from us directly, and that people do comment on it. They're like, wow, where'd you get these? You know, and so you end up with, you know, this exponential growth with word of mouth because you're producing a really high quality product and backing it up with really great customer service. And it's a winning combination. It always has been, it always will be. We guarantee our products for life. I like to tell people that the only products we've had returned were returned because they broke the glass. Didn't have anything to do with the leather. We offer free glass replacement for life. So
Really?
yeah, if you break the glass, call us. We'll send you a call tag in a box.
So it's like a life insurance policy.
Yeah,
The
right,
life of the
you know.
glass, yeah. That's crazy.
And so it does happen. And people send them back, and we refit the sleeve to a new glass and send them back out free of charge.
That's awesome. Wow. I hope I don't offend anyone out there by saying this next bit, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that is, I know that there are a lot of sort of rip-off leather goods out there. Not necessarily the stuff that, you know, hey, we're genuine Naugahyde and we're selling this. Right. Not those guys, but I'm talking about people who are saying, hey, this is really high-end stuff. This is the best ever. And it really isn't. Right. So you were talking before about how this is made and what to look at. But how, you know, how will Joe consumer know? You know, if he sees this and goes, you know, okay, yeah, I think it's the right thing. I don't know though, because there have been some cases of people trying to sort of pass off stuff as high quality,
Sure.
assuming the public is just going to be like, I don't know anything.
Sure, counting on the fact that they either don't know or don't care. And it's kind of hard, you know, because there's some quote unquote good products out there that look similar, right? And so sometimes it's hard to differentiate between those two things. But in the way of things to look for, you know, it's always good if you can find something that has all U.S. made raw materials. Okay, so that's good. Leather goods wise, you know, we're big fans of 100% natural veg tan leather. And like we talked about earlier, there are only a couple sources for that. So
Now would that say that with? I mean, is there something with the glass? That
yeah,
says
so
vegetarian?
we try to include hang tags and cards from Wickett and Craig, right? Which has a little spiel on there about their history and whatnot, so the consumer knows. Because you know,
So it's literally like
looking
a
at it, you
pedigree.
can't really tell. Yeah.
Right. There's a
You
bit,
know.
but if the pedigree is with it, that's traceable.
Sure,
Then-
you know, it's like this product was made with these raw materials, okay,
Gotcha.
and that's important because it
Okay.
makes a difference. But other than that, sometimes it's difficult to tell. But at the end of the day, you know, it's kind of like, you know, the makers movement, right, that has kind of surfaced. You know, you do want to look for original makers, people who are doing original designs and original products. You know, because that's, you want to go to the source.
Yeah, so there have been more of those cropping up, but still, I mean, a lot of times when things come in and it's like all of a sudden, you know, hey, now it's popular to have leather goods, you know, and we go through these phases, but that doesn't mean that you know, the people who are doing it necessarily have like 30 plus years of craftsmanship behind it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's something else you see. You know, when something becomes popular, okay, and, you know, to use a cliche, you know, we were doing all this before it was cool, okay? You know, the leather goods.
you were leather when leather wasn't cool, is it?
Yeah, right. We were leather when leather wasn't cool. And then, and the bourbon too, you know. I mean, I started collecting and drinking top shelf bourbon, you know, like 2000 to 2003, right? When you could go buy the, you know, the ever popular Pappy Van Winkle on the shelf, and you had to, like, I told someone the other day, you know, you had to like brush the dust off the price tag so you could see how much it was, because it'd been sitting there for 3 or 4 years. No one was buying it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were doing it before it was cool, you know, of course, and so when it becomes cool, obviously you have people jump on the bandwagon, okay, who, like you just alluded to, may not have a lot of experience, okay, which is fine. We all have to start somewhere.
Right.
But you've kind of got to get up there and pay your dues and, you know, get some experience and pick the right stuff. Was it?
So I don't know why that cut off, man. It's all right, man. Let's take it.
That's
Are
okay.
we still good over there? I'm going to do it, and we're back.
Yeah, go ahead.
And pick up where we were.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we're back with Micah Sierp from Bourbon Ware. Mike, you were telling us a little bit about, you know, like as far as the authenticity of the leather work.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people who might try to pass off cheaper grade stuff or bad craftsmanship.
Yes.
I mean, I trust there are a lot of those out there because it
Sure.
seems like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
And some of it is not necessarily, you know, we should put this disclaimer in there. Some of it is not necessarily bad craftsmanship. Okay, that's out there. Okay, but some of it is personal preference. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, that we have a very fine, tight stitch. Okay, some people, both the consumer and producers, like a chunkier, looser stitch, okay? I don't like that. I think it looks unfinished, and I don't care for it, so we don't do it. So it's not so much that it's necessarily bad craftsmanship, it's just different, okay? And it's not in a tradition where we come from, okay? So basically, our lineage is these traditional French, German, Italian, English kind of leather crafting techniques. Okay, been around for, you know, hundreds of years. And then past that, it really comes down through the thoroughbred horse industry, through really traditional, well-built, well-sourced bridle work and harness work.
So, like other techniques developed as the horse industry was kind of coming up to accommodate, you know.
Sure, and the materials too. You know, that's where you know, the name bridle leather. That's where that comes from. And so this is a drum dyed English bridle leather that's hot stuffed, what they call hot stuffed at the end, full of natural oils and beeswax and things. And so it's just ridiculously durable.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
very durable. You know, you know, this dark brown English bridle, you know, you could use that every day for years, and it's not going to change.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, whereas with the harness leather, like Aaron alluded to earlier, that's going to pick up color, and that's going to mature and get that patina, right? Because it's going to react differently because it was tanned a little bit different. It's finished a little bit different.
You know, is leather, like a lot of things with age, it becomes more valuable? Or is it just, it wears and like I can look at it and say...
Well, it may become more valuable to you.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's not like there's some huge, you know, market for used or, you know, vintage leather goods.
Gotcha.
And there are people who collect that kind of stuff, but it's tiny. So the value, the value is primarily for you, right? Because you have seen, especially with the harness leather, you've seen it change over the years. You know, you like you mentioned earlier,
Right.
it's
Like this has been a
kind of
part of
it's
my-
been on my hand.
My den where my bar is. for a long
Right.
time.
You know, I've been drinking out of this glass for 20 years. And, you know, I've broken it twice and I've sent it back to Micah and he's re-glassed it a few times and we've got all this history together, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I drank out of it.
A lot of bourbons.
Yeah, a lot of different bourbons have gone through it. Listen, we have one customer who actually doesn't wash his glasses. So he drinks all his bourbon neat, and this is probably the wildest story I think I've ever heard. And when he's finished, he just sets it and lets it dry. So the tiny little remnant of bourbon or whatever that's left in the bottom just dries, okay? And he pours the next pour on top of it, right? Kind of like a cast iron skillet, like he's seasoning
like
it or
he's seasoning
something,
his
you know?
glass.
Which is a little strange, but
It probably
you know,
changes the flavor too.
I mean,
to
if
some
that's what
degree.
you want to do, you know, if that's how you get down, that's okay. You know, we're cool with that. But people use them in a lot of different ways.
Everybody has their own idea.
Yeah,
So.
and there's nostalgia involved with it too.
Yeah.
And one point that I've made in previous interviews, when you're just talking about the bourbon industry in general, is you know, when I was in college, the big thing was flavored vodka. Okay. You know, I'm 36 years old. 20 years from now, I'm not going to be nostalgic for flavored vodka. Okay, I'm just going to think about a hangover and a headache and bad choices. Right? No one cares about flavored vodka anymore. But the bourbon craze, right, what's going on now, and people who are coming of age right now and learning about drinking, and they're in college or they're in their early 20s or whatever, and they're having these experiences, these very aesthetic experiences, they're going to be nostalgic for this stuff in 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to be totally different than what we went through.
Yeah.
Alcohol-wise, and what was cool.
Well, and that's I think that kind of fits in with the theme of what we've been trying to do on the show, which is
Long form. You know?
well, yeah, it's the long form thing, and it's long form because it takes long form to get into this scuba diving situation with people to actually find out what that thing is.
Sure.
But there is something about, like, why is it that would seem so special to someone in 20 years as a nostalgic thing they were once doing versus flavored vodka.
Right.
Or, you know, in my day, earlier, there was like Cisco, you know, and all those really bad drinks, you know, that were popular. They cycle through and go, let me try some Cisco. You go,
Look,
Jesus.
nobody's going to brush off a dusty bottle of flavored vodka at their kid's wedding.
No.
well, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and pour it into a leather wrapped rocks glass.
Yeah. Right.
You know, whereas with a 20-year-old bottle of bourbon.
Yeah. So in that sense, it's almost bordering on wine, really. Where with wine, you might say, hey, I've got a 200-year-old bottle here I've been saving for my son or daughter's wedding.
Sure.
And it's worth a lot, but we want to drink it.
Well, and we're seeing a lot of parallels, you know, between the bourbon industry and the wine industry, because you're not only seeing people comparing, like, for instance, what's a good example? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on a good example, but it doesn't matter. So, some bourbon that you might take 6 or 7 consecutive years. Blanton's. Here's a good one. So, you know, there's a Blanton's. This, let's see, the dump date on this.
This is one you service?
Well, we service Sazerac, okay? So Sazerac owns Blanton's. They own Eagle Rare, they own Sazerac Rye, obviously, and they own Buffalo Trace, and we service Buffalo Trace. Okay. So this is in the family. You know, the dump date on this is 7/30 of 18. So you might have someone that
By dump date, what does that mean exactly?
That's when they emptied the barrel and bottled it.
I see, okay.
And so what you might have is someone who will take 6 or 7 years of consecutive dump dates, and they might want to taste them together, right? Which is something you'd see done with a wine. Take various years of wine and taste them, okay?
Yeah.
The other thing we're seeing that's become immensely popular for restaurants, bourbon clubs, and individuals, if you can afford it, is purchasing a single barrel, the whole barrel, okay, which usually starts about $8,000 and goes up. And in general, what you do is the distillery will have someone who handles their single barrel program, a purchase program. You'll come in, and a lot of times they'll like feed you brunch. It's like a big to-do. It's like a a half day kind of thing. And you'll sit down with someone, and you and your buddies. A lot of bourbon groups do it. Liquor stores have started doing it too. And you'll taste multiple barrels, samples from multiple barrels, and you'll pick the one you want. Okay, and they will dump it, bottle it, and label it for you. Okay,
Gotcha.
And that'll be your barrel pick. Okay. And so that's something else that's reminiscent of the wine world, where we're picking this single cask or we're picking this single barrel, that we really like, and we want this bottled for us.
Gotcha. So highly personal.
Oh, yeah.
Highly
very
specific.
tailored to you and what you're doing, and that goes back to the aesthetics thing, man. And the experience. It's all about the experience.
See, I find it really interesting how the more things are available in bulk, the more, this
The special
what a
stuff
highly
becomes special.
experience.
Yeah.
It's like those things ride each
Right.
other.
Well, the more we have easy access to these, cheap bulk things, right? The more there's part of us that craves this experience.
Well, we had talked about this in a previous show where, when you have plenty of one thing, the subconscious will crave this other thing that it's not getting.
Scarcity.
Somehow.
Sure.
Yeah, so it has a feeling of special versus not so special.
Which is why you see people getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and lining up outside a liquor store in the freezing rain and standing there until 9 o'clock when they open for the chance, no guarantee, to buy a specific bottle of bourbon they're looking for. Okay.
Wow.
And a lot of people look at that and they're like, that's insane. That's nuts. But I mean, if that's what you're into, right? If that's the hunt, if that's going to fill a hole, in your bourbon collection, in your series,
right?
Or if you're going to be the first person on Instagram to get to review this new release that just came out from a popular distillery.
Yeah.
You got to do
it. Has a meaning to you. That,
it has a ton of
that. Somehow it fills something, whatever that.
And there's camaraderie in it too. You have bourbon clubs that'll get, get guys and girls together and they'll camp out together and wait for the doors to open and then go in and try to see what you get. It's a lot of fun.
Social.
Yeah, it's a very social thing. Of course, drinking is social anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're an alcoholic.
Well, let's not pass judgment. Some of us like drink a lot.
Well, there are those alcoholics that are highly social, and then there are those who are more isolated.
Yeah.
So it kind of
high functioning.
I mean, any addiction is that way then.
Yeah.
Well, earlier you all had said something about pairing things, and just for those high-end consumers of liquor, whiskey, liqueur, if you had something, would you sell that as, say, like the decanter plus, 4 cups plus shot glasses?
Sure, we do
as well?
sets
Is that-
all. Yeah, we do sets all the time.
So,
people,
so you put a set
the
together.
sets are very popular for wedding gifts. We do a lot of laser engraving of monograms on decanters and glasses to match. Do a lot of flasks for groomsmen's gifts and things like that.
Gotcha. Now, do you have any other products that will be added to your line
Oh,
in
we're
the near
always
future?
we're always working on new stuff. Right now, I think everyone's familiar with the traditional Lexington nameplate belts with the brass nameplates.
Yeah, I've got one on right now.
Yeah, that's seeing a resurgent popularity too. But we are working on a series of decanters and glasses with brass plates on them.
Oh, nice.
So we're working on that, and like I mentioned earlier, working on a larger flask. So we are always looking.
So they can have something like brass plates with a family name,
exactly,
or once again the highly personal experience. Yeah, that's awesome.
Another thing we do a lot of is custom logos. So there are a lot of bourbon clubs out there, and also for corporate gifts. We're getting ready to start doing some things for the Bluegrass Airport with their logo on them. And I mailed some things out earlier today.
This is for the restaurants in.
No. These are corporate gifts. These are giveaways, promos with the logo on them. And we shipped some stuff out earlier to the Ohio Bourbon Hunters Association. Those kind of folks who like to get their logo put on glasses and coasters and things like that.
Now, on your website, do you have information about, what goes into everything you've been talking about?
Yeah, so there's a little page on there that's got some provenance on it and some background on me.
Gotcha.
And tells you where the raw materials come from and all that kind of stuff.
Because probably people who are wanting this type of thing, they probably would check it out quite a bit, I'm guessing.
Sure, people find it interesting. Just like they find the background of the bourbons interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Please give your information one more time. Make sure that we're all good on it.
Absolutely. Bourbonware, WARE.com, at Bourbonware on Instagram, Micah, MICAH, at Bourbonware.com, or 859-420-8010.
Okay. And do you ever run any special stuff, holiday stuff?
Yes,
Things
we
like
usually have some kind of special as we get closer to Christmas, usually after Black Friday.
Okay, awesome. Folks, we sure do appreciate you tuning in to Sebastian and Sierp once again. We've been here with Micah Sierp and Bourbonware, telling us about his products and services. And be sure to check out his website. You heard the address for that. Go there, get the product, check it out. It's unique. You can't get it anywhere else. It's fabulous. Micah, we sure do appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks
Hope
for having
you had a lot
me.
of fun, man.
Absolutely,
Yeah, and look forward to maybe another
Yeah.
time too. Yeah. We're out.
At Kyojuteiru Kempo, we believe that everyone has the right to defend themselves and their loved ones. Violence can visit us despite age, race, or gender. Call us at Kyojuteiru Kempo or check us out at kyojuteiru.org. kyojuteiru.org. Hello, I'm Chip Sebastian. I am the co-host of Sebastian and Sierp. If you've been liking the shows, please click like down below. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, jump on over to YouTube, click subscribe, and you will get the most recent episodes of our show where we're interviewing all kinds of great and interesting people. So we're looking forward to a lot more shows. Stay tuned. It's rolling. Just begun.